Foden has saved City from embarrassment in the Premier League as they beat Leeds United 3-2. But how did it even get to that point? In this video, I'm going to explore the interesting tactical decisions from both managers in that second half, especially how Leeds made a significant change in that second half. How did that lead to them acquiring key control of the match? What did Guardiola do to mitigate that change? How was Donnarumma so influential in that change? And is this an isolated incident, or is this a pattern that we have been seeing this season? As for City losing control in the second half, why is that the case? Let's begin with the lineups from the match. We've got Leeds on the left, City on the right. Manchester City, as you would expect, going back to the personnel for the most part that played really well against Bournemouth and Liverpool, and got the loss against Newcastle. Key changes from that Leverkusen game. Leeds were without a couple of key players, either through rotation or injury, such as to Longstaff. In that first half, even though Leeds technically played in a 4-5-1, City's on-ball shape meant that there were times where Leeds were actually defending with either a back five or even a back six at times. So what is it City were doing in possession? Because out of possession was Foden at right wing. We haven't really seen that extensively this season outside of the Napoli game, I believe. It wasn't anything special that City did. They went more so to their 2-3-5 that we have been seeing for large portions this season. So Foden did on the right what we've seen Doku do on the left. Bernardo would be incredibly deep in the initial phases of build-up. What would then happen, though, would Foden and Bernardo would essentially swap places. So Nunes still holding the width there. Bernardo goes more so to the right. That allows Foden to play even more centrally in that preferred position when it gets to the really latter stages of the phase of play. Because of the positioning of City's fullbacks, this forced massive questions of the Leeds wingers, Gnotto and James, essentially having to act as auxiliary wing-backs at times. So it was either a back five or even a back six at times. So look at how many Leeds players are committed there. They don't want to play like this. Leeds are not, despite what people have been saying in the lead up to this match, Leeds are not a low block side at all. That's not what they have illustrated this season. They want to actually play football. They want to try to attack their opponents and play football. They don't want to defend with a back six, but City almost forced them to do it. This does one of two things. First of all, it makes for a very hilarious photo. But secondly, what it does is it really limits Leeds' counter-attacking threat. Because you've got a pacey winger like James Gnotto out at wing-back, further away from City's goal rather than close to the goal, and therefore able to construct a counter-attack. That's a really good defensive tool for City, forcing those players back. Hence, Leeds did nothing in that first half. It was a fantastically controlled, measured performance from City, utterly dominant. It was a 2-0 scoreline at halftime. It could have been 3, 4, 5-0. Leeds United players made some fantastic blocks in that first half. Leeds also didn't commit too many bodies forward to their press either. That did surprise me because they have this season committed a fair number of players to their press, but they did not do it. Perhaps they felt that at this stage, 1-0 down, it's not worth the risk, because we know if you do go intense against City, you can get some joy, but it is also a risky strategy if your press does not work. And I've seen Burnley, for example, play through a Leeds high press. So if Burnley can do it, then of course Manchester City can do it. So too early for them perhaps to commit that many bodies forward. So we had no problem with building up from the back in that first half. Utter control dominance. Something massively changed though in that second half. Calvert-Lewin came on. They also brought on a defender. So how did that change Leeds' shape? So it was a 4-5-1 in the first half. Calvert-Lewin comes on. The two wide players go off. Justin is pushed up to essentially left midfield. The whole midfield moves across. And now, instead of one player pressing from the front, you have two. So you've doubled the amount of players doing that. Leeds also changed their mentality and their approach also. It was not uncommon to see Leeds defending more so the halfway line in that second half. There are those two strikers up top now, Calvert-Lewin and Nemecha. What also happened was Leeds simply went more direct also when they had the ball, whether from goal kicks or whatever. They just went far more direct. Bogle in particular would push up, allowing Calvert-Lewin to make more of a channel run. So you'd have Bogle occupying the fullback in O'Reilly, and then Calvert-Lewin imposing more of a question on City's defender by making the run in around this area. This in between the centre-back and the fullback, essentially. They did change the shape, but they also changed the approach and the mentality, and they went far more aggressive. So what did that mean in that second half? This is going to be very similar to my Brentford analysis if you have seen that video. If you haven't, then you're a fraud. Speaking of frauds, how did this get here? How embarrassing. Fraud alert merchandise at the knob shop, LNobbins.com. I also have a number of other unique premium Nobbins designs on shirts, hoodies, and even canvas artwork. It is LNobbins.com. The link is in the video description if you want to support me and get something what I think is pretty cool in return. Ball possession. First half, 66%, utterly dominant. Second half, massive decline, down to 55%. And this is even accounting for that stretch of play towards the end where City had all of the ball all of the time as they were trying to identify a winner and score a winning goal. So the ball possession went down. And why did the ball possession go down? Because the passing accuracy went down. And why did the passing accuracy go down? Partly because City were forced into more long balls, but also because of the Leeds United approach. Passes per defensive action this is. So in the first half, Leeds allowing around 13 passes before they engage in a defensive action onto City. In the second half, more than halved, down to 6. The momentum shift seems to take place from around this point in the match. We don't do well enough from the set piece. Thankfully, Diaz is able to block it off the line. So Leeds changed their approach, they changed their shape. Look at their back line now, far more advanced compared to the first half. But also look at how many bodies they've not only committed forward, but look at where these bodies are. They are far more central. What does that mean? They are compacting, congesting the centre, making it more compact, making it harder for City to access their central players, the players who you would want to help City in terms of build-up and ball progression, i.e. primarily Foden and Doku, who are the 8/10s at this point in the game. What does that do? Well, it forces City to seek progression avenues out wide instead through players like Nico O'Reilly and Núñez. Leeds are more than happy for City to have the ball in those areas because it is far less dangerous for them, but also these are players who are nowhere near as good at building out from the back. They are nowhere near as good at progressing the play from a technical perspective or a small space perspective as Foden and Doku are. So that was a really clever move by Leeds United. And from here, City kept giving the ball away. They were not able to sustain any control or pressure in the match. So here, Ryan just to Nico O'Reilly. His only option is to go wide because Leeds are now congesting the centre. Nico O'Reilly forced to go back to Guardiola. Unfortunately, we are no longer as good at building out centrally. In my opinion, Donnarumma should probably be more positioned here so that he can receive it and then play a quick ball, perhaps first time out to Diaz to switch the play to easily allow City to move the play over from one side to another. That moves the Leeds press over. That then means that City have more of a chance of holding on to and retaining the ball and control. But instead, Donnarumma's positioning is a bit more conservative. He goes back, and now look at what has happened. So we've gone backwards rather than going technically diagonally backwards, but also sideways, and then with the potential to go forwards through players like Foden, who would be available here now. Instead, we've gone backwards. We are inviting more pressure. This is forcing us to go back out wide through Guardiola, and he has no option here other than to hoof it up, and then City lose the ball from there. This is the opposite of what you want to be doing at the start of a second half. the energy did also change in the crowd as well. What you do not want to do is give the away fans a way back into the match either. As someone who was in the stadium, this isn't me having a go at Leeds fans at all, but from around the 40th minute, I want to say, they were very quiet because the energy had been sapped, because City were destroying any chance they had of actually controlling the game or being involved in the game. So the last thing you want to do is get a noisy away crowd back into the game by making silly errors and giving the ball away. And that's ultimately what happened. This is a horrendous error by Núñez. City win the ball back here, but Núñez isn't especially good at building out from the back. We probably do need another right back at some point, and Núñez had a good first half. These problems keep materializing. If we're not strong at building centrally, then we have to be strong building out wide, and we aren't strong at building out wide when teams come onto us like this. The ball into Foden is the right idea, because then Foden can simply lay it off to Nico, and look, City are away progressing centrally, but that is not what happened. Núñez gives it away straight to a Leeds player, and then Guardiola deals with it, and Núñez just makes another calamitous error. It is inexcusable, and unfortunately it wipes out his really good assist from the first half. That is a shame, and it's not really good enough. I was at the Etihad. Little details like this of City just giving away the ball for no reason kills the crowd, and it kills the vibe, because you know that you are under the front foot and you can feel that shift in momentum. It's really hard to describe unless you're actually there. And if the fans can feel it, the home fans can feel it, of course the away fans can feel it, and of course the Leeds players can feel it, and the City players can feel it also. There's silly errors like here, not being able to sustain the ball, playing it out for a throw-in, and Leeds are dangerous from set pieces as well. Leeds pick up the ball here, it's 52:09, and it's Leeds who are having the ball for so long. So from that period there, over a minute of sustained possession from Leeds until they play the long ball and it eventually evades them. So City were getting absolutely done over in that second half up until that change that I'm going to be touching on in a moment. In particular, these are stats from the first half. I want you to pay particular attention to the passes per sequence, 12, and how many 10 plus pass sequences there were, 13. You can also look at the possession and field tilt as well. That's the thing as well. Long balls also. Second half, it's halved down to 6 passes per sequence and 6 10 plus pass sequences. The possession is down. The field tilt is down. But the long balls have actually increased for City. Even though they are committing and taking part in less passes, the number of long ball passes they are making has actually increased. It's all points to a side who have lost control in the match. They've lost the momentum. The shift has changed. The dynamic has changed. Credit does need to go to the Leeds manager for doing that, but the fact that we were not able to deal with Leeds is very concerning. If you lose control of the play, if you're not able to build up well, what you are doing is you are turning the game into a percentage game and a numbers game. You are making it far more likely where duels and second ball wins are far more relevant in the game. And we know that we are not built for that. We do not have the personnel to play like that. I think this is the worst I've ever seen it with City, only winning 39% of their duels, Leeds winning nearly twice as many second balls as us, also across the full 90 minutes. Something changed. Donnarumma went down with an injury. It was definitely Diaz telling him to go down. And from here, Pep was able to respond to Farke's changes. The fact that we had to do this is a bit of a concern. I can't even remember the last time City were forced to do something like this. So what actually did change? In possession, first of all, City went far more conservative. Núñez dropped back, as did O'Reilly, rather than being this left winger. City went to more of a back three on ball rather than a back two. So another body's been added to that unit. And what City did off ball was, instead of pressing more so with this diamond that we have seen from City of late, so Bernardo at the tip, Nico at the base, and then the wingers tuck in. This is what we saw up until that change for the most part when Leeds were trying to build out from the back. We actually dropped Reinders back and we went to 3 in the press instead, because up until that point, Leeds were just really easily able to start with the goalkeeper and then play a couple balls, and then they are through the entirety of our central press. So Haaland being joined by Foden and Doku rather than just Reinders in that forward press. That was another out of possession change that Pep made, and that did work in fairness. Instead of the wide players coming in narrow and then the fullbacks pushing up, the wide players stayed wide. Now, why would that be the case? Because why would you want Foden at right wing? We know that's not his best position at all. Why would you want Doku to just be hugging the touchlines exclusively? We know that he can do that, but he's been so fantastic centrally. Well, I believe this was in response to Leeds forcing City to go out wide. They were denying access to the players that we wanted on the ball at the time, i.e. Doku and Foden, and we were struggling as a consequence. So doing this meant that what Leeds were doing by forcing City to go wide, it wasn't as much of a problem. We were now getting our better ball players on the ball, in addition to just having another body in our rest defence shape also. So I think that was the key change, and there's no denying that it did work. It did allow City to have more control of the game, but it was almost a case of it being too little, too late by that point. Momentum had been killed in the match and the mood was dead. The City fans were now expecting / hoping for another goal, but City were far more conservative and far more keen on retaining control at that point. But there's so much football still to be played. It makes it a very hard obstacle to overcome. So City had the ball from 60-18 through to 62-30. So lots of sustained possession now. That is good. That is much better. Unfortunately, because of Leeds going more direct, as I mentioned before, and the Calvert-Lewin making that channel run, and because of the really bizarre errors that City were making, like this is inexcusable by Guardiola, he's got to simply have more faith in Donnarumma there to save it, or just stay on his feet and try to close the angle. There's no excusing that. But I don't think it is a coincidence that the game went away from City before this mistake and even before the Nunes error as well. That momentum shift did exist. And even after that goal, I thought that Leeds were maybe going to score a winner because we kept giving the ball away. If this were just an isolated incident, I would not be overly concerned. But the fact is, it isn't. It's something that we are seeing consistently all season, game to game, when City are doing well in the first half and then another team comes on to us in the second half. They tweak things slightly, they go more aggressive, they press with more intensity. It's happened against teams like United, Liverpool, Newcastle, Monaco, Brentford, and now Leeds. I'm sure there are a number of other examples in there as well. We need to significantly improve how we build out from the back. Otherwise, other teams are going to consistently be able to exploit this as a weakness. We can give credit to Farke for his changes, and of course we should, but how much of a concern is it that we were not able to cope with simply Leeds committing more bodies forwards? That to me is a concern. But City won the game, and that's lovely. This didn't really feel like one of those wins where there's going to be a springboard for City to now go on a massive run. I'd love to be proven wrong on that, but it didn't really feel like that sort of game. Thankfully, Nunes and Guardiola were indirectly involved in the winning goal after their horrendous errors, so perhaps trying to make up for that. They did score and get an assist in the first half, so not the worst game from them, but horrendous individual errors, of course, and maybe they tried to make up for it with the winning goal. So Nunes continues his run here, and what this does is it does drag a couple of Leeds players over to him. We can question Calvert-Lewin's positioning here. Should he maybe be doing a better job of picking up Foden? But regardless, Nunes is dragging these players over, allowing Shirky a bit of space, and more importantly, allowing Foden a little bit of space. It is obscene that he gets the winner starting from this position. He even said in his post-match interview that his first touch got away from him a little bit. So the fact he's able to remedy the situation after a poor, in his view, first touch is particularly impressive. The finish from here is absolutely insane to do this in the 91st minute, basically just inside the box. Fantastic winner. Foden saved the day. It shouldn't have had to have come to that. Also, I tweeted about this. Brief shout out to Guardiola for his indirect action here. He actually jumps before Foden even takes a shot. I just thought that was really interesting and like a nice little moment between those two there and the understanding that they have with one another and the natural chemistry that they have. That was the match. City beating Leeds in the end. One could argue by the skin, well, certainly by the skin of our teeth. One could argue that we didn't actually deserve to win it based on our second half performance. It was a very worrying second half performance. Pep changed it in the second half following the Leeds change. So fair play to Guardiola for addressing that. Could he have addressed it a little bit earlier? I think so. Should the players have crumbles just because Leeds committed a few more bodies forwards and changed their shape? I don't think so. I don't think that's good enough, and it is a little bit of a concern. And by a little bit, I mean a big concern going from now until the end of the season. We shall see if City do improve, but the same issues. I'm sorry if these tactical reviews feel like a carbon copy and paste, but the two biggest issues that we've had this season keep cropping up every single time. We're not especially good at building up from the back when we're put under pressure. We are not especially good if the midfield battle becomes a physical one, and we are not, and just sticking with that midfield situation, our off-ball structure is still questionable in my opinion. Thank you so much for watching the video. Really hope you did enjoy it. Hopefully you enjoyed it more than watching that travesty of a second half. If you did enjoy the video, leave a like on the video. It's free. If you want to go the extra mile, consider becoming a YouTube member or a supporter on the Patreon. The links are in the video description. Shout out to my highest tier supporters: Tony, Spartacus, Silver Splits to Blue, Ethan Larios, Austin King, and Rowan.